Hey all. Okay. And since this one of these years I will actually afford, I should get an arm. Well, still bounce around a little bit. Welcome. Sorry I was late. Of course, the plumber was supposed to be here at 5, but showed up a lot later than that. So some leaking going on upstairs. We're trying to figure out what the best access is, and they haven't decided yet. It'll be interesting to see how they get in there, considering we have 18-inch thick concrete floors and really thick walls and everything, which is normally really good, but can be a pain otherwise. Let me just fire up chat here, make sure I'm not talking to myself. And oops, helps if I turn down this volume. Okay, great. Joel Rance, thank you for joining us. Tobai, welcome. Marty Steins, Red Claw, Inshan, Fogdog, Mike Berg, Justin Gallo, Brent Chadwick, Rhoda, Marty, Justin, thank you for your service here. Ah, it's nice to actually just sit for a second in this heat. I'm going nuts. I should have turned on the air conditioner, but I'm just too cheap for the extra money. I'll run that later and see. So I hope everyone is doing okay today. And let's see. Um, didn't have any topics, especially for today. So mostly with your questions, we'll go over a short buffet, a couple things that I'm going to be testing soon, and we'll see what's going on. See who else who might have joined us. Gormy Gorm, thanks for coming in. Rick Crawford, hello. Hazazita, greetings. WHTT, what? Thank you. Yeah, trouble is, I'm still at my age. It's still blotchy and itchy as all Hades. So I think it's going to go. It's fun to try. Didn't have any video conferences, or client video calls, or anything like that. So uh, it wasn't a big deal otherwise. But oh, I want to scratch my face off. And I figured, well, no, just go another week. Half the hair is growing straight out. It's not coming down. I just don't do good beard. What? Mustache and goatee maybe, but then it's all the maintenance for it, and still scratching my face off. And when you're wearing a mask everywhere, okay, yeah, just having goatee and mustache means the mask actually will be effective, but no one sees it anyway. So I'm thinking I might take it off. We'll see what happens. Lord of Apes, welcome. Jose Rezo, welcome. Boxcar Rick, howdy, howdy. And let's see, we've got dug deep. I was looking for um, some examples of bad uh, USB connectors. And so I was going through some of the older devices looking for some things and decided for today, still finishing up some tests, but I'll be doing some financial paperwork tonight, and that's going to get me good and stressed. So I'm going to be needing some vaping tonight. Um, and pulled out a Tree Box Mini and a Bellis single coil RTA 75-watt device, and yes, made of wood. Single 18650. I think it's been a couple of years since I used this, but this was one of my favorites for a long time. And I know people ended up modifying the Bellis and doing some other things with it, but I liked it stock, except for put on some red glass to do a matchy-matchy thing with the Tree Box Mini. And I like it. It's a nice little change. Half ohm twisted 28 Canthal coil is going to go in here probably around 25 watts or so. But considering how hot it is, I'm actually dial that down some because I've got the slightly minty 70 VG that I'll just be doing. And I have a little flashback to what 2016 or something with that device. Shuttle Ranch, sorry. So anyone with a question, please, battery space smooch. It's the only way I'm going to be able to see it. You don't need an @ symbol or hashtag or anything. That's battery space smooch. Gives a nice bright red tag in chat. It's easy for me to see and separate from the interchat messages. Justin, 0 usually. For me, it was at least half of what made me want to smoke was, actually, I'm a lefty, my oral fixation and the mechanical motion. So if I go 0 Nick, I can actually, I have enough willpower of my own to hold off things as long as I can satisfy the oral fixation and the mechanical motion of stuff. Now, I still have some 3 here for some really bad times, but I haven't used it this year. Last year I used it a few times, but otherwise, for me, most of it, not most of it, half of it was mechanical and oral as opposed to a chemical dependency because I wasn't a heavy smoker. So maybe I didn't develop that chemical addiction dependency as bad as a lot of other people have it. 10,000. Do you think 18350 production could dry up with the lessened demand from vaping after PMTA and bans, particularly better ones like the YDL? Well, I think the YDL 18350 existed before vaping, so I, I don't know. The answer to your question is I don't know. It's a good question, though. I don't think dry up. I think because it's a mature product. Um, the longer that's in production, as long as they're still making a profit, the longer they're in production, the longer they can amortize the startup cost to start production for that, though that's probably long paid for. But if they have the machinery set up and everything going on, now it may be the kind of thing where maybe they run that line once a month, 1 week a month instead of 3 weeks a month or something like that. But I don't know. I can't tell you, oh, you should stock up or not, especially since batteries are lousy at stocking up with. I would say if you stock up ever, it's when, it is obvious after taking a year and having trouble finding batteries, and then you finally find some, okay, stock up, but not any kind of rumors or worries in advance. It's just not worth it. Batteries just don't store well. Yeah, Marty Steins, I agree. Red Claw Inshan, you tested the VTC 5D. Yes, long time ago. I have 2 pair and feel they perform worse than the 5A. Uh, is it only your weird experience? Well, have you controlled the variables? It's easy to have, terms of temperature, charge, your mood, everything. You've got to repeat the tests many times over many days and make sure you control the battery temperatures, what sequence you're using it. You try the 5A, then try the 5D, then go back to the 5A, then go back to the 5D because you might be heating up the cotton. Um, once the cotton's warmer, it's different than totally different hit than totally cold for vape experience, cold cotton vape experience. So you've got to go back and forth, and preferably you not knowing which is which. Wrap both of them, have someone rewrap both of them, put A and B on them, and switch back and forth between them, and have you tell them which one you think is a better performer. Then you don't need as much control. You can just have one setup, but someone's giving you batteries. You take 3 hits, they give you a different battery, or maybe the same battery back again. Then you take 3 hits, then you go and do that because the DMI testing was a little better, but you can always end up buying a grade B VTC 5D and a grade A VTC 5A. You'd have no idea, but now they'd be about the same performance, or the A might perform a little bit better, or the VTC-Ds you had are 2-year-old production and the A's are 6 months ago, or the Ds were badly stored at high temperatures and they degraded a little bit more. So just looking at raw numbers from tests won't tell you a lot about um, what's going on. And so I think you have to do a lot more testing. And then once you get the test results, you don't know whether it's from grades or storage or anything like that. You just kind of go, oh, okay. You'd have to go out and purchase um, VTC 5Ds from a couple more vendors, VTC 5As from a couple more vendors, do tests with those before you can say, oh, okay, I know which one works better for me. Which isn't worth it though. They're fairly close. So I'd say whichever one is less expensive that you can get from a decent vendor, go for it. One that's got a lot of turnover. Proper Coils asks, what is the hardest hitting 21700 battery for use on a single battery mech? Samsung 30T by far. That's a lie, not by far. For the first one third of a discharge, the 30T hits harder. After that, the Molicel P42A hits a little bit harder. So if you're running the batteries further down, if you're one of those people that runs the battery further down in a mech, then the P42A may be the better choice. If you're someone who takes 10 pulls, 15 pulls, and switches batteries because the tiniest bit of performance has started to drop, then the 30T is a better choice. We're getting a really fine line here. I don't know if you'll be able to tell the difference. Most people, I don't think, will be able to tell the difference between them. Hazazida, I'm always careful to correctly orient the batteries in my dual parallel mech. Very important. But what would actually happen if I put them in both reversed? Both reversed, as long as the device has reverse battery protection, nothing should happen. If they doesn't have reverse battery protection, then you could burn out the device and potentially soft short circuit the batteries, which is bad. One up, one down, instantly short circuits both batteries into each other, and one or both could catch fire or explode. So one up, one down is really bad, guaranteed bad. Both upside down could be bad, maybe, maybe not. Depends on the device. Solmax 23. I purchased some Sony 21700 batteries. Which ones? Are they as good as the 18650s? Sony 21700s? There are no Sony 21700s. Which model number battery are you referring to? Oh wait, there's a VTC6A Sony, but which one are you referring to? Solmax 23. And before I dive into a little more of these, something I was thinking now that we're talking mechs, but I got in some torrents for testings. For testings. See, I hear bagpipes and my brain just goes to mush. Torn Max in brass, and then in stainless, copper, and brass, the regular Torrens. What's nice is these come with what they call their X chip. Essentially, it's a protection module. So you put an 18650 in, 21700 device, put an 18650 in here, but now it's protected. And then you put it inside here and you get a protected mech. So I like that feature. I hate this thing where you have to use the fingers to tighten. The Max has a full button you can grab. But I'll be testing those soon, those four mechs. Two or three of them will be giveaways to my patrons. One of them, hopefully I don't damage another. Will be kept as a reference mod for me. I already blew out two of their protection modules. 100% my fault. Found out they weren't compatible. Excuse me. They were plenty compatible with everything and they work, they function, but my test setup that I had wasn't compatible with the protection modules and I burned them out instantly. So they're sending me some new ones and then I'll be doing the testing on all that. But otherwise, the testing I did, protection modules work fine. No problems there. And diving back into this, Red Band reviews. I've seen a picture of battery cells has printed on label not for e-cig vape use. Have you seen them yet? Yes. They've actually been doing that for a couple of years now. Some brands, some other brands are just starting up like LG. Are they doing this to mitigate law, court, stupid user claims, thoughts? Yeah. I mean, they've never been for e-cigarette, electronic cigarette use. In fact, no round cell we use was ever meant to be used outside of a fully protected, physically and electronically, battery pack. Never ever. And the data sheets would say, I've always said that. But lately, with flashlight use, vaping use, power banks, drones, and things like that, but we seem to be the only ones blowing ourselves up with these round batteries. So the manufacturers have said, look, we're getting a lot more proactive about this, sending out letters to distributors and vendors, putting warnings Sony Murata has not for like only for use in a battery pack printed on the metal can. Samsung is, excuse me, LG is adding them to almost all their cells. Samsung, I forgot, my brain's locking as to whether they're doing it or they've already done it. Sony, excuse me, Sanyo and Panasonic haven't yet, but they're not used as often in vaping. So they may not have had things, accidents, but they were getting sued. They were getting named in lawsuits that affects their reputation. No manufacturer wants to be associated with accidents and even a couple of deaths. I think it's two over the years. From battery explosions with a vaping device. So yeah, I mean it's covering themselves. It's saying, look, we've been very proactive, saying never use these for vaping, and it's a way to get the shops from stopping selling them because a shop can't, vaping shop sells the vapors, and if they sell a battery that says not for use for vaping and there's an accident, that shop's in a lot of trouble. Red Claw Ishan. Use the batteries in a DNA 250C mod, same Addy, same wiki on top. When the mod showed batteries empty, they were still 30% full in the charger. Could have been battery curves. It could be the curves. It could be um, by the time you got them into the charger, they had come back up to the true resting voltage. I would say leave them in the device, for an hour, check, and then put them in the charger. The charger can be way off. Chargers are lousy devices. It's the only devices we have, but they're lousy devices for capacity, for battery percentage, for internal resistance checking. The charger we have access to. I mean, look how inexpensive they are. We can't expect them to do much of anything other than just charge. But I've seen battery percentages off, 40, 50% easily, especially at the two ends. Uh, just disasters, especially since every single battery, I mean, they can't be accurate because every single battery will have a different voltage equals percentage set of numbers, curves. On one, 4.0 volts might be 85%. Another one might be 95%. And also, the battery percentages change depending on the charging rate because you get a voltage, instead of voltage sag, you get a voltage rise when charging. That doesn't really exist. There's a bigger rise, apparent rise, the higher the charging current is. So percentages can be hugely off. So it could be the battery curves, or it could be having, different timings before you wait and check the voltages, or it could just be that chargers are terrible at battery percentage. Marty Steins, can some mechs use batteries in either direction? They can. I probably say any mech could use a battery in either direction, but there's some real issues with batteries positive down and a torn wrap on the side. That gives you a hard short of the battery the instant you press the button, and it can explode in your face. Whereas if it's battery up, and this is just for a straight mech, I don't know what all mechs, but just a straight, no fancy, nothing going on mech with the battery positive up, and you've got a tear on the side, you'll just get an auto fire through the coil. When you put the battery in, as you're screwing on the cover, it'll start firing, and that's a lot easier situation or much better situation to deal with than a full hard short when you press the button. But certainly, if you ever have a mech and you hit the button and it doesn't instantly hit fire, then stop absolutely completely and make sure you don't have a short circuit. And all I can say is, run the mech, run the battery in the direction the manufacturer says to do it. That's the only thing I can default to. I can't tell you one is better or worse for all mechs. I can't tell you one's better or worse or proper or not proper. Because there can always be some freaking mech designer who came up with one where, down is actually better than up because of some combination of features and safety features and stuff like that. Boxcar Rick, have you been testing the heavy hitter yet? No, haven't received it yet. Last I heard, they're guaranteed to ship, I think, the pre-orders by July 20th. So it could be potentially as late as that before they even ship to me. And that would mean it would be the end of the month. Between shipping time and testing time would be the end of the month before the testing would be done. SOMAX23, VTC6A. Okay, I don't remember what your question is. That is 21.7. Oh, is it better than the 18650s? Well, just because the VT6A in 18650 is one of the best all around 18650s. And here now you've got more, I think you've got more capacity, or it's the same. It's a lower internal resistance, so it is a slightly better battery. But I'd say compare them, get both and compare. But the VT6A 21700, it's hard to find. You might, hopefully it's not a really old cell, but that's a good battery. I don't know how it compares. I haven't looked at the curves to compare it to the Molicel P42A and Samsung 30T and 40T. Steve Gwynn, sorry, don't know. Is using a 30T at lower wattages in a regulated mod hard on the board? No, no, using anything at a lower level is easier on everything involved. Um, I would love to know where the scientific rationale for the rumors, because they keep getting passed around. Someone had to say at the start, technically, here's why it's harder on a board when you use when you use a lower wattage. I mean, think about running a car. Let's say a car can do 100 miles an hour. Are you damaging the engine more driving at 30 miles an hour? Now, I'm not talking about uh, esoteric things like, oh, well, 100 miles an hour, you get more air through the grill, so you're cooling the engine more, something like that. And just ignore all those weird potentials, just the engine itself. The engine's going to be happier, running at 2,000 RPM than 7,000 RPM. Same thing for electronics. You always get longer life um, and less thermal cycling, which can wear out things if you're running at a lower wattage. Doesn't matter which battery you use. KN coils. Hello, question. The Molly cells, two sizes. What are their true CDR? Initially, I saw some stuff at 21700 saying 45 amp. Now I see 35 amp. Looking for clarification. Well, it gets complicated. It's the true CDR I say is 25 amps for the P26A 18650. 30. Oh, haha. I'm blanking out. Someone help me out here on the CDR for the P42A. Was it 30 amps? I don't remember. Anyway, they have a higher rating in the data sheets and what most vendors would love to use because it comes from the data sheet so they can say it. And it's for non-continuous use, which is what the Molly cells were designed for. But for me, the 18650 was 25 amps. And then, okay, 30 amps for thank you, for the P42A. Now, those are just my ratings. You can completely ignore them. It's not the truth, for non-continuous use. You can use it up to 45 amps, and I believe I give it a non-continuous 45 amp rating. 18650, I don't remember if it did, but there's a link in the description section below to my blog at ECF. There you can get my ratings tables or my list of test reports and look up what I say for every cell, because I seem to be pretty short on brain power tonight for some of those specifics. Thank you, Marty. Came in right after him. Echo Dub, thank you for your kind words. Rodent, how noticeable is it to change the battery on a mech? Well, it depends how far you've taken down the battery. Rodent, if you take one pull and put in a new battery, take one pull, they're going to feel the same. If you take 50 pulls and put in a new battery, it's going to be a whole new vaping experience. So it all depends how far you go down on the battery, and of course, which battery you have. Dave Flowers, hey, thanks for joining us, dude. Glad you've been lurking. Red Claw Inchon, my pleasure. PSS asks about the VTC6 H2. I guess you mean the HG2 or VTC 5D for 18650 low wattage, 50 watts and under. Well, higher milliampere hour makes sense if you already have high enough current ratings. So, let's say you said, Panasonic 18650G, it's like a 4 amp battery. Well, yeah, maybe 3,550 milliampere hours, but no, it does not make sense because you're running at much too high a power level. At 50 watts, you could use the HG2, but that's running. You're right at the point where VTC 5D might be better, or the HG2 might be better. The VTC 6 rated at about 45 watts, so let's push that to the side. So you might have to test both VTC 5D and the HG2 and see what works better for your style. But the VTC 5D will let you go up to 75 watts if you ever want to go a little higher. It might have a longer overall life because it's not being used as hard as an HG2 at 50 watts. But if you're going, if you ever think you're going to go to 55 watts, 60 watts, go with the VTC 5D. Otherwise, yeah, you have to compare HG2 or VTC 5D. You're just right in the middle there. If you're saying 40 to 50, then I'd say stay with the HG2. But if you're saying 50 to 60, try the VTC 5D. Lee Kenyon, battery space mooch in the front, please. Any update on the Kennedy Ruby 21 testing? No, none yet. I have to change, just don't have time to change the wiring harnesses. I don't know when I'll be able to do that. PSS, first, the milliampere hour is not a great indicator once you get above a few watts of which battery is going to last longer. A 3000, a 3500 milliampere hour 18650 will run only one-fourth as long as a 2000 milliampere hour 18650 at higher power levels, even though it's almost double the capacity, because the internal resistance, its efficiency, is so low compared to a good performing low capacity battery. So once you get above a few watts, you just can't say, oh, capacity rules all. You pick the current rating you need. That's your number one most important thing. And then once you have the current rating, you can pick the higher capacity of batteries, and you'll probably be okay. Justin, says the Molicel P26A gets up to 100C at 35 amps in the report. Yeah, if you run it continuously. That's why, that 35 amp rating um, is for non-continuous use only. But if you have a device failure, an auto firing, or something goes wrong with the device, and you've got your device set up to pull 35 amps, well, yeah, then you've got a lot of risk going on there, getting that battery heating up. King Coils, my pleasure. Marty Steins, I think you told me 30 amps one night, but 35 if I'm careful, it doesn't get hot. Okay, yeah, I don't remember. James Bailey with kind words. Thank you, sir. Dano, battery space mooch in the front, please. I'm new to vaping. I'm using dual HG2s. I'm guessing in a regulated device. The HG2 rated 3020 amp. Does it double the capacity into 6040 amp if I'm using two of the batteries? Well, in a regulated device, it doesn't matter. Series or parallel, it's the same amount of current from the battery. You get roughly twice as much vaping time using two batteries, three times as much vaping time using three batteries, et cetera, and so forth. I mean, you've got energy in those batteries, so more batteries equals more time. If you've got a mech, then series parallel and all this stuff really matters. So if you've got two HG2s, 3000 milliampere hours at 20 amps, um, if you put them in parallel, you get 6000 milliampere hour at 40 amps. Theoretical, the current sharing won't be equal, so call it 30, 35 amps. If you put them in series, it's still, the capacity doesn't double. It's still 3000 milliampere hours, and it's still 20 amps, but you get double the voltage. So in parallel, you double capacity, theoretically double the current handling. In series, you only double the voltage. The capacity and the current handling stays the same. Check on the internet, check on YouTube for series versus parallel batteries. They'll have a great explanation, graphics to step you through it slowly. But you only have to worry about that with a Mac. In a regulated device, you just worry about the wattage per battery. And you take the current rating, in your case 20 amps, you multiply it by 3 to get the wattage, roughly. So you've got 60 watts for these 20 amp HG2s, since you have two of them, it's 120 watts you can go up to before you hit the rating at the battery. Doesn't matter whether series or parallel, but in a regulated device, you can go up to 120 watts. Dave Flowers, is using the custom curve settings harder on batteries? Are you talking about DNA devices? Oh, I see. You're in terms of how hard it hits that curve. So you maybe you got a preheat, a high power preheat kind of something. Well, oh, and you use a curve at 140 watts to start, and then you tail down to an 80-watt vape. So you're saying you use 140 watts, then 110, 190, 80, and then I guess 80 for as long as you hold on the button. Well, that's harder on a battery than if you just vaped at 80. So it all depends on what you're talking about, but it's easier on your battery than running at 140 the whole time. Because if you need 140 at the start, you kind of have an option. Let's say, set it 140 and just run it the whole time. That's hard on the battery. Set it 80 the whole time and just wait for the ramp up. That's certainly easier. Or you might set it to 110 because that's in the middle, and that would be in between running at 80 and 140. So it all depends what you're comparing it to, but certainly running at a high power level at the start is harder on a battery than just running it at that 80 watts the whole time. Justin, yeah, thanks for the wattage seg. Red Claw and Shun, thanks for all the work you do for us, using a chart to guide people on Facebook using the quote safest unquote battery possible. Joining Patreon, small tier, sadly. Thank you for the support. But I guess every penny counts. Absolutely. And thank you for becoming a patron and thank you for your kind words. Just Vapes Reviews. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We still have some time here. I am sweating like crazy and thirsty, so the air conditioner will be going on. I'm trying to think now. I was thinking of something with the torrents that I didn't show you, but I haven't seen that. Kip Drippers, someone had asked that a few minutes ago. Kip Drippers wants to know when I'm going to get the heavy hitter mod for testing. I don't know. The last I heard, the latest they'll ship out the pre-orders is the 20th, then shipping to me, then testing time, so it could be the end of the month. I don't know if they'll be shipping before then. I haven't heard anything since a few days ago. Alico from any update with the clutch long term? Well, I don't use it heavily because I bounce between everything. So, I've only got, I don't know how many, 20 hours of vaping time on it total, I think, maybe a little bit less, and no issues, none at all. Minimal. I haven't. Did I go in? I forgot if I went in there and just gave it without even taking it apart. Just got in a little wedge. I have a memory of getting in there a little wedge of a Scotch-Brite pad on the contacts, but I've done almost no maintenance on it or anything. But I haven't been using it heavily. But certainly no problems at all for the light use that I've had. I'm not the person to go to for heavy use, long-term reliability because I am bouncing between a lot of devices. Just Vapes Reviews, it's an AC day for sure. Certainly here in New York, whole month. Dylan says, bought some P42As, not bad, not bad at all. I'm a mech user. Yeah, it's a great all-around mech thing, mech battery. It's just a little bit of performance different up front versus the 30T. I think a lot of people won't even notice if you bounce back and forth between them. Double blind because we have just too many biases. The humans are just so terrible for that kind of testing. We're just awful in terms of our biases when trying to test batteries or particular devices or something like that. Tolerance 98 Fahrenheit. Okay, that's a little. It's got to be at least what 12 degrees hotter than what we're running here in New York by now. Being about 7:30, 7:40. Boxcar Rick says you haven't gotten a clutch. You get it. It is. It's nice. It's a good performer. it's a decent performer. They can be you can get better performing mechs, but a lot of people wouldn't notice the difference. And it's just a great mech. It's simple to maintain, which I love. Some mechs like Defiant Designs, the TS and DS, that's a brutal amount of disassembly and tiny threads to maintain and stuff like that. But I do love the look of the Defiant Design mechs, and the performance of it was pretty good. PSS says it's scorching hot in Toronto too. Huh. I guess that whatever that heat bubble goes up pretty far north. Kevin Slort, battery space mooch in the front, unless you're just asking chat. 30 good, 30Q, any good for 0.3 build drawing 12.6 amps? Or only be used in a series mod? You can use any battery in any device on the planet as long as any type of device, as long as it fits and it has a high enough current rating for the application you're using it in. So, if your math says you're pulling 12 amps on a 15 amp rated battery, right there, you're under the rating. Um, I don't know a single battery, any battery, even a Samsung 20S with a zero point 0.3 build. That's a heck of a ramp up time. That's a very low power. I don't know if you're going to be happy with that. Maybe you'll be just fine with that. If you go into a series mod, then well, certainly with a zero point 0.3 build, but let's say you go into a series mod with the equivalent would be a 1.2 ohm coil in series because you go 4 times resistance when you're going from single to series to keep the same power level. So in series, you'd be using a 1.2 ohm coil with 230Qs in series, and you have the same problem. Now, 0.3 ohm coil in series is going to be a ferocious vape, and the 30Q is completely the wrong coil, wrong battery for that. Get some Samsung 20Ss if you're going to be running at power levels that high. Yeah, Tova Yonder, hello, 102 Fahrenheit in San Antonio. Yeah, I think that's about the human melting point. Why are the bagpipes back? They were here 40 minutes ago. Must be an on request concert. Alexander, hello, welcome, welcome. Time to attend in a couple of minutes. Thanks for joining us. Buffalo at 90. Wow. Stephen Jacques. Uh-oh, I got the busy internet circle of death here. So sorry for the chopness. Um, Stephen, now is it Stefan or Stephen? I remembered what the STE was for, but there's a debate on the pronunciations. Hey Mooch, what are your thoughts on the Turin Max with a 30T? Don't know yet, but any Mac with a 30T, ta-da, that's a great choice. So it's really, what kind of voltage drops do we see now? The Max, it's brass. There's a ton of metal there. There's not going to be any voltage drops through the brass. It's really how well the threads cut. What kind of contact patch do I get with the contact and stuff? So be interesting. And now that I have the copper, brass, and stainless for the regular Torin, I can directly compare the performance of different metals with the same device, which I love to do because that gives you so much data on how non-important for most mechs are the metal choice is. It's more about what do they do with the threads, what do they do with the contact and stuff. Justin can't hear the bagpipes. Sorry, it for me it wasn't very loud. It's just like being a screwdriver being driven into my ear with a jackhammer. Some of the pieces I really like. There are a couple of pieces he does, which really just sounds like he's just doing that, and it's not an actual tune. Those, I guess I don't have the proper appreciation for the style of music. But some of the pieces are absolutely beautiful that he does. It just fits the bagpipe, I think. And for the first time ever, a male opera singer. We have a female opera singer in the building. She does some beautiful, beautiful stuff because she practices with the windows open. But now I'm hearing a male opera singer. Interesting. Maybe he's teaming up with the bagpipe player out front. Mike Berg says if you get into full mech, watch a lot of Mooch, Bogan, and Bioauthentic teas. There you go. Also, Big Lou, uh, Heavy Metal Vapor. Um, Trying to think who else does the mechs. Well, my battery, my brain, my battery. Well, yeah, my battery, my brain is frying. Tova Yonder, do you know about 4 battery mods? Any red flags you know of? Well, Hammer of God, and they just released a quad 21700. Then there's the 5 battery something 18650 they came out with what was a couple of years ago. Any red flags? Well, I'd say be very, very careful about how you're putting your batteries in because you're really depending on their protection, and not all of them may have full protection for the groups of 2 cells usually, depending what combination you put things in. So not any red flags other than be really careful. Don't just say, "Oh, it's all protected. I can put a batteries any way I want to. It just won't work. It just won't turn on." No, I'd say be careful with them. But otherwise, I haven't heard anything one way or the other. Red Claw Inchon running 3 mechs with only 30 Ts due to your ratings. Work like a charm. Do not even get a little warm with 0.11 ohm. Check fairly often. Good. I'm glad you're getting good results. I'd recommend everybody staying under 35 amps, but it's your choice. We're not even supposed to be using these batteries, so it's your choice as to how far you want to go um, in terms of the risks that are involved. ISMO F4 is popular, but it's sketchy quality, Justin says. Heavy Metal Vapor just had a show called MechMod Kings. Great info. Yeah, what was that, last month? It did first one. It'd be nice to see an episode 2 on that. Red Claw Inchon results with that 30T are good. Tried higher resistance, didn't satisfy me much. Yeah, that can be hard with the higher one. I'm typically, but I like a cooler vape this time of year. I'm 0.15, 0.17 on a 30T or P42A in a mech or a Samsung 20S. But in the middle of winter, yeah, lower resistance I like. Nice fat, super saturated hot vape on a cold day is a nice thing. But on a day like today, I'm like, "Pff, no, 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 no. Low power, um, cooler vape, a little bit of mint for that cool, extra cool feeling." All right, there is something going on because now there's a keyboard playing outside. Someone must have moved everything out into the backyard. Kip Drippers says he is in the Pointo I'm not going to tell you gang with his 30 Ts. Hey, we all get to choose the risk we want to run at. I just don't want anyone to make it onto the news because that hurts the entire community. It only takes, like 2 accidents for this to become a national incident that leads to calls for regulation. Stephen Jocks wonders if Mooch toots a point 0.6. Well, I'm putting a 0.5 in this. Well, there is a 0.5 in this. Twisted 28 Canthal, single coil. But other times I use a 0.0 very, very, I'm not going to tell you, in winter and trying out different juices. Some juices just really respond well to very, very, very high power levels. Fogdog, the shirt today is and I think they were the ones that I love these guys. Great guys. Check out the show, check out their channel. And did it actually show? I should say, Plumes of Hazard. When I just realized it might have been folded and I wasn't actually showing you the title. And I think they were the ones who first invited me onto a show many, many moons ago. Had to be 4 years ago. Outback Vaping. Oh, I was going to hold the mic in a certain direction, see if you could hear the bagpipes because he's right outside the door, front door. Can you finally get Molicel batteries in Australia? Thanks to your recommendation, but very hard to get to now. Yeah, Vapoureyes has them, and Vapour, Oureyes, carries them. They're an authorized distributor, and there's oh Who's the other one? I'm so sorry. Check description section below. I've listed vendors. See if there's another one for Australia there. But there's another one there, and I apologize to them for not remembering the name. I need to go over this list more often to remember these. Red Claw Inshan, do you recommend calculating with 4.2 or rather something like 4 or even 3.7 for mechs? If someone asks me what I recommend, I must say 4.2 because that's a safer number to use when calculating the current draw from a battery for the Ohm's law calculation for a mech. So 4.2. But if you want to have a number that's closer to the actual voltage of your battery, then you use 3.7. But by default, I have to respond, I recommend 4.2. And I certainly ask everybody else, if you are asked, or if you're recommending or helping somebody out, start with 4.2. As they learn more about mechs, as they start to understand the batteries and safety a little bit more, they will learn that 3.7 is a little bit closer. And when they learn that, hopefully they're ready and they can use 3.7. Justin Vickers says the guy who runs 0.07 on his 30T says his battery life is measured in a matter of weeks. I believe that. Aliquot Fromp, any insight on protected batteries or their boards? Not yet, but I've got a protected VapCell 18650. I'm about ready to write the test report. I'm just waiting a couple of days now for VapCell to get back to me with a question I had about technical question I had about it. But you're limited to about 10 amps, absolute maximum, maybe 7 amps, 10. If you're careful, 7 if you're chain vaping or something. And so we're just not going to get higher than that. Some of them can be crap. Some of them get done well. Some have, just heat shrunk circuit boards on them. Others have, fully encapsulated, metal caps with a circuit board inside, like VapCell does. So the different construction methods. But I haven't tested enough of them. But I've got some 14500s, 18650s protected, and then for standard lithium ion. And then do I have protected? I protected 1.5 volt batteries I'm testing from Xstar also. Anybody's asking questions, please? Battery Space Mooch, no hashtags, no at symbols, just Battery Space Mooch in the front. Red Claw Inshan, thanks. That's what I do when people ask me about calculating for mech. Just wanted your input. Okay, there you go. So 4.2 volts, I recommend telling people to run at. Kip Drippers likes hot rowdy coils. Well, yes, with that resistance you mentioned, yes, I can see that. CP is wondering if anyone makes their own e-liquids. I bet you there are going to be some responses to that. And I think there'll be more and more of that, certainly in America soon. Marty Steins runs a half ohm dual Claptons at 8 volts. Okay. Yeah, the one with Jay Hayes just was talking about, was it yesterday, the day before, was reviewing a mod that the board goes all the way up to 12 volts for those who like higher power levels with high resistance. Which, that's very high. What used typically a max is around 9 or something, if not a lot lower. Rob Scanlon, hello. Glad you're joining us. Justin, thank you. Link to a DIY Facebook. We've got about 5 or 6 more minutes. Get in the last of the questions. Jay Hayes, Marty Stein says Jay Hayes always raves about vaping with high voltage, not current. And I kind of feel on him on that. Batteries last for double. Well, yeah, it's, high voltage can give you high current. It all depends on the resistance you're using. But typically, higher voltage vaping, you have to vape at higher voltage because you're using a higher resistance coil. So you have to have a high voltage to push enough current to get enough power to have a satisfying vape. So it's saying, well, I'm a high voltage vapor. That just means because you have to run at a high voltage because you picked a high resistance a coil um, for the way you want to vape. So you need the high voltage to get that power level up. Red Claw Inshon, DIY liquids is a big thing in Germany since they limited nicotine to 20 milligrams per mil at a max size of 10 mil. Wow, that'd be a pain. For liquids with nick in them, so everybody uses nick shots to make their own juice. Yep. And I can't see us going to that halfway. America's regulatory bodies are so like, oh, no, we don't want to deal with a million little shops. We just want three companies so we can get in bed with them and just make things so easy to regulate. Justin, it seems so. All caught up on chat. Outback Vaping. Sorry for asking dumb questions. Not at all. No one's asked a dumb question ever. But sometimes it's the only way to get people to hear the right answer. No, that's not. There are no dumb questions. Marty Steins. I normally do vapor on 5 to 6 volts, depending if it's a single or dual coil, how much airflow is built into the dripper. Okay. And again, for anybody who's listening here, it's not the voltage. Voltage doesn't just exist on its own because 5 volts on a zero point 0.1 coil is going to be huge versus 5 volts on a 1 ohm coil, which you may like or may not like at all. So it's really about your coil resistance, and that'll you want a certain power level at that coil in order to get the vape experience you want, and so you will need a certain voltage to force enough current through the coil to give you that power level that you're looking for. Outback Vaping, yeah, boy, you guys, that was some scary stuff. It looks like it was going to happen, and then they pulled it out for 6 months, or pulled it back for 6 months. Got about 2 more minutes. If there's any other questions, if not, make sure you check out another vape show. Tell them Mooch sent you. I'll be listening, but I won't be able to join chat for a while because I will be cooking dinner. But they always have such great topics, dozens of topics. Not like me topic list tonight. Justin Vickers says 100 milligram concentrate for Nick as a max. Oh yeah, phew, even that. I'd say no if you have kids or pets, even on that. Nefarian, hello. Thank you for dropping by. Internet is broken, can't stay. Thank you for the hello, for saying hello. Red Claw Inshon, dinner, 2 a.m. here. Well, actually, I call it second dinner at around 12, 1 a.m. So 2 a.m. wouldn't be out of the question for, a heavy snack at least. Thank you for the link, Justin. Red Baron Reviews, thanks for the time answering questions. Approximate voltage drop on Keen in series. Oh, I don't remember. Check description section, head over to my blog at ECF and grab my MechMod voltage drop table. You can derive the actual voltage drop, but I tell you the power loss compared to some other mechs. I don't remember. There's just so many numbers coming with all the tests and then the battery stuff, and it's less something I've just tested, which is why I do the tables, so I never have to remember all that. Outback Vaping, what type of bike is that you ride in the background? I haven't been on it in months. I actually forget the manufacturer's name. It's not Specialized. I forgot who. It's a hybrid bike. Um, pretty brutal. It weighs a ton, but that's because people in New York City crash their bikes. You're going to get hit by something. But I totally blew out on the who makes the bike because I haven't been on it in well, actually since last summer. Certainly don't ride here. Been some medical issues that have just made tough to do a lot of physical activities, so I haven't been on it. And for the last question, Toasty Cheesy asks, what 18650 battery would last the longest for between 15 to 20 watts? I'd say the Sanyo NCR 18650GA. That would be probably your best choice, up to about 20 watts. Anything more than that, get the VTC6 or 30Q up to about 45 watts. If you can't find the NCR 18650GA, try the LG MJ1. They have different capacities, but both of them are above 3000 milliamp per hour, and both are a great choice at up to about 20 watts. And that is it. Fogdog, thanks for the vital educational info as always. Stay safe, stay cool. Absolutely. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the terrific questions. Thank you, everybody who helped out in chat for everybody else. Everybody, hopefully, stay safe, stay sane, and hope to see you all next week. Take care.